Hi friends, it's Joan at Joan's Mini Homes, and this is my second video regarding my building of the Vermont Farmhouse Junior by Real Good Toys. So, as I mentioned to you in the first video, I'm building this house for a little girl, and I didn't know what color she would want the house. Now, she's 4, she'll probably be 5 by the time it's finished, at least. Well, hopefully not that long. But anyway, she wanted it to be pink and purple. And so I made her a little paint palette, let me show you, of pink and purple shades just from some paints that I had so I can get an idea of what she'd like. And you know, little kids can't make a lot of decisions or hard decisions, but they can have a say in what colors their dollhouse is. And I think that's really important so that they can really feel ownership. So, just as I suspected, she picked this color. She picked this color, which happens to be Apple Barrel Pure Pink. She also picked for her purple, Americana Brilliant Purple, and Apple Barrel Royal Violet. So, those are the goals color-wise. So in the first video, and if you haven't seen that, you'll want to take a look if you're building the house. And this will work for just about any dollhouse kit. Well, at least the ones made by Real Good Toys. They do come with good directions, but sometimes it's easy to just watch someone do it and listen to, you know, the experiences that they have. So this takes a lot of room. So as you can see, many of the pieces take up my kitchen table. There are other pieces as well, and that are still not painted. And don't forget to paint the backs of your flooring pieces as well, because those will be the ceilings of the room beneath that floor. All right, so I spread out all my pieces, and I still have my little green labels you can see. Now, these all have one coat, which you're instructed to put. It's got a primer coat on it so that it will raise the grain in the wood, and then when you sand it, it'll be very smooth, and then you can apply your final coat of paint. So I always do white. Some people use primer. It doesn't recommend primer, and so what I used is my Apple Barrel from Walmart. Apple Barrel just white paint. Now, you'll notice, and I got some of these, let me talk about this also. I got these nice brushes. These are Royal Langnickel 1 3/4 inch. I'm going to show you the label here if I can. Oh, my goodness. Okay, yeah, it's Royal Langnickel. These are also from Walmart. These are 1 3/4 inch brushes, and they're really nice. They're synthetic brushes, but they're very smooth, and they put the paint on very nicely. And this, you get these 2 big brushes for less than $10. So I just wanted to say that in case you're wondering what kind of brushes to use. You don't have to use those. I wouldn't use anything smaller because the pieces are pretty good size, and you don't want to be taking forever. Now, you'll notice that some of these pieces that I've primed or pre-painted, some have less paint on them and some have more. Now, that's because I had 2 different bottles of my paint. The first bottle was very thin, and the second bottle was very thick. And so the darker ones, of course, are the very thick ones. Now, that doesn't make a difference. You know, it'll be the same basic result, so you don't really need to bother worrying about that. I kind of like the thicker one, but we have to sand these anyway. And so when you get ready to sand, you are going to need to get some sandpaper. Now, I had several things here, and I didn't have, I like to use what I have in the house if possible, just because, you know, why not? And so I had several kinds of sandpaper, and this first one was 3M Pro Grade Faster Sanding 400 Grit, and it's purple. Okay, it looks like that. It looks like this, and I thought in my head that this was going to be too fine of a grain, and that's what it looks like on the back. So I tried this 150 Garnet Grit, and that was not horrible, but it did leave scratches in the paint. So, and I also tried this fingernail brush too, and that worked actually pretty well, but I knew in my heart it was going to wear out really fast, so I needed to come up with plan B. So, I actually ended up taking this 400 grit paper, wrapping it around, like folding, like making a crease like this. This is kind of hard one-handed. I'm doing this in my kitchen because everything is all over the house and it's really hard. So I match up the corner with the grit, and then when you sand, you just hold it like this, but upside down, and sand. And particularly when you're doing the side, the pieces with the siding, like this one, you need to do each, well, shoot, that's not going to work. Okay, so you need to do each slat pretty much individually with the sander. And it should feel very, very smooth when you're done. And if you feel the difference, these feel super rough before they're sanded and super smooth after they're sanded. And then the back, of course, looks like this. And one thing I wanted to mention was, okay, see how uneven it looks? That matters not a bit. They said your first coat, your primer coat, if you will, should be transparent. You should have parts where the wood shows through, but it feels very, very smooth, like glass, and that's how it should feel. So this is sanded correctly. Now, on the pieces right here and here, where pieces are glued into each other, I try not to paint that area if possible, simply because you want wood against wood. Glue's better than paint against paint or wood against paint. So I try not to really do those parts, paint those too much in those areas. So you can paint the insides of the windows, but there's one thing you have to watch out for. If you're a bit of a sloppy painter like I am, you don't want thick paint in the windows, because if you get it there, you may impede being able to put your windows in. Now, one thing that it suggests is, and this can be kind of hard to one-handed, is to get a little file and file the corners. So go once this way and once this way. Can you see that? Once this way. And make sure the corners are square so that your windows will fit in good. And if you accidentally make a little nick, I was really worried about this at first. If you accidentally make a little nick there, it doesn't matter, because the frame of the window will hide that. And also, this is a good thing to use if I have thick globs of paint that have gotten inside, because also we don't want to get in the way of the windows getting in, so you may want to file that a bit. I did use some sandpaper, but honestly, okay, and this was a really dumb idea, because look what I did to my chair. All right. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to do that outside from now on, but you get the idea. So anyway, you can use a craft knife or a box cutter just to get in this way and this way to each of the corners of the windows and doors, because that's going to help your window and door hardware fit in, or window and door frames fit in when you're ready for that part, which is quite a while down the road. All right, so let me think if there's anything else that I've forgotten to tell you. I talked about the priming paint, I talked about the brushes, the sandpaper, and all that. Okay, I think that's it for step 2. So, this front of the house, which is what I just have been showing you, the front of the house took me about 30 minutes to sand properly. Unfortunately, I didn't think ahead, and I was wearing black pants, which are now gray pants. So you may want to wear light colored pants or put something over your lap. I don't know. It's really hot here, and I was doing it outside, of course, because, yeah, I didn't want all that dust in my house. And even my patio out there, I don't know if you can see it right under the bench. You probably can't. My windows are dirty because, here, let's go. Because I have a dog, and, yeah, nope, you stay right there. Kitty's going to try to escape again. He always runs over to the neighbors where his friends live, his dog friends. All right. All right, so anyway, this is where I was sanding this morning, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's all kinds of white on the, yeah, this is not a really good plan, but it's really hot here, see? Woo-hoo. It's got to be about 90 right now. All right, so let's go back in. Kitty, stay right there, buddy. Here, stay right there, buddy. There he is. Say hi, Kitty. Hi, Kitty boy. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Okay. All right, friends. So, anyway, my point of all that was please just wear some lighter colored pants. And you know what, even, especially if you have, if you get frequent sinus infections or allergies, or if you have breathing issues, I would recommend a mask because this sanding business is super, super dusty. All right, friends, that was video 2 of my progress on the Vermont Farmhouse Junior by Real Good Toys. I'm enjoying it so far, but if you decide to build yourself a dollhouse, or if you decide to build a dollhouse for someone else, please give yourself plenty of time. This is not something you can rush because there's a lot of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of, okay, I have to paint all these things, then I have to wait for them to dry, and then we assemble this, we tape it, we let that dry, then we add okay, so my point of all that is that it is a long process, and generally people work on dollhouses for years even before they get done. So we'll time my progress. I wish I would have done this with my Allison Junior because I'd like to see, you know, how long everything takes and how it progresses, what are the difficult parts and what I learned. So anyway, I want to thank you for being with me today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. It's brand new. I only have 24 subscribers so far, but hopefully I'll get a lot more soon. I appreciate you so much more than you'll ever know. Please feel free to leave a comment. And before we go, let me show you one more thing about the floors, because I do have a question. There's Baby Bird. Hi, Baby Bird. Hi, Baby Bird. He kind of has a bad attitude most of the time. But, poor dude. Anyway, this is what I wanted to show you, the floors. So this is another area where I am spreading things out. You do need kind of a lot of room to do this, friends, either floors or tables or whatever, or counter space. But this is what the floors look like, and I think they're very beautiful. And I have a question, actually, that maybe someone can answer. It talks about, like, refinishing or finishing the floors, or varnishing the floors, but I kind of like them the way they are. And I don't know if that's a necessary step. So if you know, let me know. And then this is what the other side looks like. So of course, this is the side that's going to be a ceiling in the room below. Yes. So you'll want to paint that just like the other pieces. And I have not done that yet. Of course, I do have the stairs and the base and everything already done. But if you know why we need to finish these floors, let me know, because I really actually don't know that answer, and I'm sure I will figure it out. I can email or contact Real Good Toys and ask them and see if I can find out, because I actually like those floors the way they are. Okay, friends, so anyway, that is it. I appreciate you so much for being with me. I hope that you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is where you are, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.